Audio Fanfiction Productions presents an audio preview for A Matter of Time. Fanfiction written by Duskwatcher2153. Fanfiction inspired by the Twilight Saga written by Stephanie Meyer.
Renegades' point of view. The seven of them were lined up under the garages with their hands raised. What a beautiful family I had. Maybe it was strange to be raised by a house full of vampires, but it was all I'd ever known and I loved them all. In the 7 years I'd been alive, they had nurtured and taught me and loved me. I was going to miss them, and I felt a lump in my throat as we sped down the driveway. I waved at them, kneeling on my seat until the curves in the driveway took them from view. So I said to Rosalie as I bounced back into position in my seat, "When do I get to drive?" Hours later, I was curled up in the back seat with a pillow and a blanket while the darkness outside sped by. The noise of the tires and the engine were lulling me into the dream state where you're not sure if you are awake or asleep. Jacob sat in the passenger seat up front, with the seat pushed back as far as it would go to accommodate his long legs. The only light was the glow from the dashboard. The radio, which had been playing softly, gradually slid into static. I heard it click off and then Jacob said,
"Not much reception around here. Did you want a CD or something?"
"No," Rosalie said.
"I'm fine. How's Nessie?"
I heard a seat creak as Jacob shifted to turn and check on me. I kept my eyes closed and my breathing even.
"She's asleep,"
he said.
"Rosalie,"
Jacob said after a minute.
"thanks for having me. I don't get many chances to travel with Nessie, so this is a treat."
Jacob often stayed in Forks when my family traveled, which we did quite a bit. He had his own responsibilities with his tribe and his father depended on him. He ran a garage and everybody in Forks and all the rest knew him. On the other hand, I'd been all over the world. I'd met a lot of humans, and even knew 3 languages. But outside of my immediate family and grandparents, I couldn't say I really knew anybody well. I had too many people who loved me to say I was lonely, but I felt the lack of peers in my life. Jacob was the closest thing I had to a friend. But things were going to change soon. As I neared what would be my matured state, I would be able to join my family in their usual activities. Of course, we were all going to have to leave pretty soon. The family has been in Forks for almost 10 years, and soon there would be the inevitable questions as to how unchanging their appearance was.
"You know it don't be long now before we make the move to St. John for good,"
Rosalie reminded him.
"Why all the way across the country, for Christ's sakes? You couldn't find anything closer?"
he bragged.
"It was rainy and foggy like Forks, for one, but the winters are still mild, and the hunting in the area should be good. Lots of moose, caribou and bears. The high school is a good one, that's important. This will be Nessie's first school."
"Two we're going to school with your parents' classmates,"
he grumbled.
"Hey, that's the way we do it. Don't knock it, it works,"
she answered, just a tad curtly. Well, I was excited about going to school. I'd finally get the chance to see humans day after day, maybe make some friends. I'd been around a lot of humans, because Mom and Dad wanted to make sure I wasn't going to go all predator on them. I was just so curious, and I'd never gotten the chance to talk in depth with any teenagers. What were they like? What did they think about? Weren't they scared all the time? They were so easily hurt. Rosalie was saying.
"What's best for Nessie?"
"We all want that,"
he agreed.
"I mean the rest of us had a somewhat normal childhood,"
Rosalie said.
"We had schoolmates and friends. We played with other kids and well, we had time to be a child without this rush to grow up. Nessie is smart, but did we do the right thing by teaching her calculus when she was 4? History at that age. How can you assimilate things like that when you're growing at this breakneck pace?"
"Well, she soaks it right up,"
he said.
"I don't think we have to worry about what we should or should not have done. She's a great kid. She's always been so clear about what she needs. Sometimes I feel like she is raising us."
"Ha, that's for sure."
Rosalie chuckled.
"Remember that time you were trying to get a diaper on her? She climbed up on the coffee table, pulled you by the shirt collar, looked you in the eye and told you, 'No Jacob, I want big girl pants.'" They both chuckled, and Jacob said,
"Yeah, I remember. And she was right. She was potty trained from then on."
They were silent for a moment and then Jacob said,
"Remember that time Charlie came to visit and bought a kid's book to read to her? Nessie jumped up and got Moby Dick and started reading to him.
Oh yeah,
said Rosalie.
his eyes just about popped out of his head.
They both laughed again. There was another pause while they both sifted through their thoughts.
Jacob, I need to ask you something. We, never get a chance to talk just us two. What's this imprinting thing all about anyway?
Rosalie sounded genuinely curious.
Jeez, Rosalie, I don't know if I can explain it.
I could hear the reluctance in his voice. Jacob didn't he like to talk about this, and he certainly didn't he discuss it with me. I think he just wanted it accepted as fact that he was a big part of my life and he was always going to be around.
Well, try.
Aunt Rosalie was nothing if not direct. One of the great things about Rosalie was you never had to guess where she stood on an issue. She had no qualms about letting you know. He was quiet for a moment.
Oh, I don't know. It's kind of like, well, seeing God. All of a sudden your life makes sense. You know what you were meant to do with your life.
And that mean?
Protect her, love her, see to her happiness. It has got to be like being a parent, I think. That kind of commitment. It never fades or gets old.
Rosalie sighed.
She's the closest I'll ever get to having my own child.
Jacob paused.
You know, it was really hard for me when Renee was born.
I heard him swallow and heard the pain in his voice. I risked opening an eye.
It nearly killed me to see Bella ripped apart like that, and I can remember coming downstairs wanting to.
His fists clenched and unclenched.
But then I saw Nessie, and suddenly none of that mattered. Oh, I still cared about what was happening to Bella, but my priorities changed. In the blink of an eye. Totally. Irrevocably.
You mean like love at first sight?
No, different, stronger than that. More fundamental.
He shook his head. The glow from the dashboard barely illuminated his deep-set eyes, but I could see the conviction in his face. She chewed on it for a moment.
Did I ever tell you how I met Emmett?
Didn't you, rescue him from a bear?
Yes,
she said.
And brought him home in my arms, barely alive, to be changed by Cullens. I knew right away that he was what I wanted.
And you hoped you could build a life with him?
Yes, exactly,
she said.
Well, with me, there was no hope. I knew I would build a life with her. There was no life without her,
he said matter-of-factly. His face looked surprisingly vulnerable.
But, Jacob, she is no longer just a girl. She is nearly a woman.
I know.
Jacob groaned.
She has been menstruating for months now.
How do you know that?
Rosalie was indignant.
Wolf senses, remember.
Rosalie pressed on.
Jacob, you've been a great protector and playmate for her, and it's obvious she loves you as a big brother. She may never see you as more than that. What will you do when she comes home with a day? If she finds a man that she can love?
I was surprised to hear a note of challenge in Rosalie's voice. I realized I was holding my breath. They'd noticed that their hearing was so sharp. I tried to concentrate on breathing slowly and regularly.
I don't know, Rosalie.
Jacob said, his hands covering his eyes.
I will always want to do what is best for her.
Rosalie wasn't letting him off so easy.
And if that means letting another man have her?
Well, if it comes to that, and that is what she really wants.
He trailed off uncertainly. I wasn't sure I was catching all of this. My mind was racing as I tried to put it together. I knew Jacob had imprinted on me, so he would always love me and protect me. But was there something more to the imprinting than I thought?
You have to promise me, Jacob, that you will let her decide.
Rosalie's voice was stern.
That you'll give her the chance to grow up and not rush her into a relationship with you she may not be ready for.
Of course, Rosalie.
Jacob was starting to get angry.
What kind of a man do you think I am?
Rosalie's voice softened.
I think you are a man who loves Nessie, who wants the best for her. Can you admit to the possibility that there could be someone out there who might be a better match for her? Promise me you'll give her the space to make that decision for herself.
I promise, already.
Jacob relented.
I would never push myself on her that way. Not Nessie.
That's what I'm asking.
Rosalie said in a voice that was more demanding than asking.
Give her the room to find for herself what she needs. And, should she find someone, to let her go.
God, you think I would be getting good at that? I am getting enough practice.
He said that lightly, but I could hear the pain underlying his voice. I knew about the imprinting. I just never thought about what it meant when I grew up. Jacob had always been the welcome visitor at our house, always ready to play with me, anything from dolls to video games. He was my best bud, but to think of us as something more. Wow. Did Jacob think of me that way? Did I think of Jacob that way?
The engine's knocking again.
Jacob grumbled. I hadn't heard any change in the car's engine noise. Rosalie huffed indignantly.
It is not. This car is in perfect condition.
Are you sure? What octane have you been using?
Jacob was needling her.
The right one. There's no knocking.
Rosalie wasn't having it.
You can't hear that? I thought vampires were supposed to have good hearing.
My hearing is fine.
Did you check the valve spring? The fuel injector?
The bickering went on as I gradually drifted off to sleep to the noise of the miles passing beneath us.